Welcome to Whatif tutorials. In this tutorial we will be creating project activities in the project costing module. Firstly, we will be dealing with header activities, that is those that contain detail activities, and then detail activities which are activities which can receive costs, whereas header activities cannot. And then we'll be looking at moving detail activities between header activities. Let's close this. From the Projects Costing main menu, click Projects. This is an existing project. We will use that to illustrate the creation of new activities. Click Activity Costing. This brings us to the activities form. Each activity is listed here with an activity code. It's either a H or a D, header or detail. Description, the parent, that is the detail activity here, belongs to this header activity there, header 1, and so on. The very first record in the form is the total for the project, which is level 0. Below that we have the next level, which is header 1 and also header 2, and then within header 1 we have activities, detail activities, which are level 2, and likewise within header 2 we have detail activities, which are within header 2, and here we have an activity which has been linked directly to the total, so its header is the total. Okay, so now we want to add another activity. Click Add. When you want to add an activity, you have to point to the header that you want to add the activity to. So that's what this warning is here. So you can add an activity to any existing header, or you can add an activity directly to the total. So let's say we'll add an activity to header 1. We say Add Activity, and what we can add to that then, we could add a subheader, another header within a header, or an activity, a detail activity from scratch, or we could add a detail activity from activity templates. Okay, we'll select Detail Activity New from Scratch. So what you see here is here's our project 45, here's our header activity to which we are now adding a new detail activity. We can give it any code we like. Give it and a description. You'll notice here that its level is now 2 because it's being attached to a level 1 header. The factory, you can now select the factory. It takes up the default factory, but you can select a new one. It tells you the origin is new. It now looks at the timeline because every activity has a start and a finish date, estimated start, estimated finish. And those numbers there, or those dates there, come from the project header defaults. Of course, they can be changed here. Next, we have our costs showing here, but there are no costs entered at this stage, but we do see the markups, which are the project's default markup. We can change those markups if we so wish, but we'll leave them as they are for the moment. And we can put in some comments if we want to about this activity. And click OK. And we can now, since we're already creating an activity to header 1, we can now create another activity to header 1 if we want. We'll say no. So there's our new activity there, activity 3, 4, 5, with adding to the parent activity header 1, and there's no cost there at this stage. We will be adding costs in another tutorial. The costs are added down here: materials, labour, subcontract, other, and configured items. So the other thing that we can do is we can move activities between headers. So we just added this activity here, but we may decide that, hey, we really should have added it to header 2, not header 1. So we simply say move detail activities, and here we see all of the same activities we see in this screen. We go to the one we want to move, which is one we just created, 3, 4, 5, select that, and then we say move it, because that's the only one we want to move, to a new header, header 2. So we're going to move, so sitting in header 1 at the moment, we're going to move it to header 2. We say OK, OK. So now what's happened is that activity 3, 4, 5 has been moved from header 1 to header 2. And if there were costs in there, it would move the costs. And to illustrate that, let's move activity 2 here. Oh no, we'll move activity 2 from header 1 to header 2. So we go move, select activity 2 and move it to header 2. Okay, OK. So now we've moved it to header 2 and all the costs have gone with it. So that's how you move activities. You can then, once you've moved activities, you can delete headers and add new headers, put subheaders and underheaders, and so on. And when you make changes, you might need to roll up costs. Now, one thing the way you can view these, apart from the reports, various activity reports, bottom up, top down, indented, and so on, you can just look at the reports for a particular header. So reports header activity. Whoops, we won't print it though. Okay, don't bother with that. Now tree views, these are interesting. You can select from any of the cost elements, or the total costs, or the total sales value. Let's select total costs. What we see here is the total cost of 9718 here, and it is given this indented view of header 1 and its activities, and header 2 and their activities, and the totals for the header and the totals for the activities within each header. So you can do that for any element of cost as well as the sales value. So that concludes this tutorial.